Excellent. Now I'm going to hand it over to Melissa for host. And now I should be able to, just kidding, you might have to let me share my screen.
Okay.
It's a lesson, never cede your power.
Did that work?
Yes, awesome. All right, let's do this. All right, excellent. So this is the Community Navigator pilot program. Melissa and myself represent two of the regional development corporations of Vermont. So big picture background on this program. So the Vermont Small Business Development Center, VTSBDC, is one of 51 grantees of the U.S. Small Business Administration's Community Navigator pilot program. The way it works is it's a, quote, hub and spoke model with VTSBDC as the spoke and the regional development corporations, as well as many other Vermont community organizations as service providing spokes in this model. So it's designed to create partnerships with trusted community-based organizations, that's us, to reduce barriers to small businesses. I'll go ahead and show you the list of the other spokes that are participating in here. A lot of text. This is on our website as well. So I may get Melissa to drop a link in the chat to these other spokes. We are certainly looking to help as many people as possible receive this technical assistance as part of our work, but I strongly recommend that you check out the other services that are offered by the other spokes. So I will leave that there for now. Great. So again, as part of what we're offering through the RDC network is we're coordinating technical assistance. So some of you may be familiar with the Restart Vermont Technical Assistance Program. If you're not, totally okay. Essentially, the way that it's structured is that this program will pay service providers to complete projects for Vermont businesses. So I've got some bullets up here. Some examples are, web design, legal services, business operations. There's a ton of them. You can see examples of more of those technical assistance services that are being offered at vermonteconomicdevelopment.com. I'll ask Melissa to drop in our vendor page as well. Feel free to peruse that after the call here. So the next piece of it is that the navigators, Melissa and myself, we help to determine appropriate projects, connect you with those TA providers, and then we'll ultimately develop a scope of work for the project and then help marshal it through to completion. So there are, as I mentioned, 2 navigators for this program. That's one of the key differences between this iteration and RevTA. In RevTA previously, there were 12 navigators, 1 for each region in Vermont, and now there are 2 for the whole state. So that being said, be patient with us. We're awesome, but it's high volume, so we will be processing applications as quickly as we can. What I will say before I move on to the next piece is that, hopefully we answer as many of your questions as possible during this call, but if you have any before you submit your application and are connected with one of the navigators, please email this cnpp@brattleborodevelopment.com email address, just until you get connected with us, and then you'll either be connected with myself or Melissa. So, okay, how does a business register and what to expect? So you'll need a couple items before you really dive in. You're going to want some figures on your household income. There's details on the website about how to calculate that. You also need your business's gross revenue, net income, and number of full-time employees for the years 2019 through 2021. The next piece is that you're going to want a general idea of the kind of technical assistance your business needs. Again, there's that list of technical assistance providers as well as the services that they offer. So some of you may have a specific idea for a project that you want to do. That's awesome. That vendor tool online is really helpful in brainstorming. Cool. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to actually walk us through the process of submitting an application. It's pretty straightforward, as you'll see. All right. So it'll look very, very slightly different as you dive into it yourself. But this is largely what our application form looks like. It's got some basic information about eligibility. So Vermont business is established as of March 15th, 2020, with at least $5,000 in gross annual revenue, and that's for those years 2019 through 2021. So, and again, the next piece of it is impacted by COVID-19. As you'll see when we get further along into it, it's you need to be able to articulate an impact of COVID, whether that be things like loss of revenue or supply chain issues. Could also be growth opportunities or ways that you've pivoted and want to carry that work forward. So, more information, I'm skipping over it, but read through it as you look at the application. We've got a piece about this is the household income element. So I'm going to say here. So the reason this is important is that this program has funding from a couple of different places, and some of the funding is limited to people that meet certain income requirements. So we have more of that funding, so it won't necessarily give you more money, but we want to be able to spread it out as much as possible. So we encourage you to fill this out to the best of your ability here. All right. Great. And so it'll run that calculation for you and let you know. Let's say Actually, I made the cardinal mistake. I put in my name. It should be my business's name as registered with the Secretary of State. So, Casey, LLC. And I'm gonna just start typing in some information here. So just to speed us along. So the region, this is, these are which regional development corporations your business is associated with. There's an interactive map that can help you figure out where that is if you're not sure. There's some extra information you won't see. Date established. Oh, see, that's the next piece. I have to go back a little bit. Great. My business does not have multiple owners. I think that's got to be a real one. Great. Address information, contact information, website. Hit next here. All right. So now we've got some census information. You don't have to fill it out. You can click prefer not to answer on each of these. do not conduct business in another language. I wish I did. That would be great. And I am rural. Next code. So fill that out to the best of your ability. Let's say I'm into finance. So gross revenue. So again, pretty standard breakdown, net income. Say I had one full-time employee here. And so this is the element I spoke of, referencing how we need to talk about our COVID impact. So let's say for my business, let's say we had supply chain issues. You know, I'm being brief for the sake of time. I think there is an upper character limit, so we'll find that sweet spot in terms of articulating that. And then we've got what type of technical assistance do you need? So as you can see, we have a bunch of options here. So let's say these are the ones that I need. If you have something specific that you're looking for, Melissa told me that someone's looking for a tea kettle engineer. So, you know, any information there is really helpful as we are, you know, helping you talk through your project. So again, take a look at that vendor list. If you have someone specific in mind, that's great. You can list them here. If you have someone that you've worked with before and they are, and you'd like to work with them, that's awesome. There's a link here to the vendor registration so they can get in our system as well. And then you'll list any COVID relief that you received. And then you'll discuss how to help your business. Next. And now there's a certification. So one of the nice things about this program is, you know, we're not having you upload your taxes, provide a bunch of receipts necessarily, but you do have to certify that the information is true. So you'll read through that carefully, fill everything out through there, certify that your household income is correct, type your name, date, and then this piece is important. You're going to create a password here. So you're going to create a password. This is helpful when we get into the scope of work element. You're going to need that in order for us to, for you to have secure access to some of the information in your account. So I've done everything there, and then I hit submit, and I've completed my application to the CNPP program. So super quick run through. I'm sure there's some questions. I want to touch base a little bit and we'll return to my PowerPoint here. So what happens next? What happens after you've submitted your application to us? So what happens is it gets assigned to review. It'll go to either Melissa or myself. There's no specific logic to who gets who. So you'll be lucky to get Melissa. Then you'll get an email with information about how to set up a time to meet with either of us and talk about your project. So once you meet with us, then it's about a half hour, and we'll talk with you through that may be a specific project that you had in mind, or we'll brainstorm some ideas together. And once we've kind of established our direction, we will then send you a list of items from the scope of work that we're going to be looking for. And it's going to help frame your conversation with the technical assistance provider. So at that point, after you've met with Melissa or myself, you're going to either talk to your established technical assistance provider or go identify one or more. So you're going to identify them, reach out to them, have a conversation, they're going to be able to clarify some of those ideas with you about, what makes the most sense for your project, what can you do, what's the timeline look like, and then you're going to come back to us with a quote. So once we've gotten all of the information about the project, the Navigators will develop a formal scope of work document. That document will go to you to sign off on, to say, yep, those are the details we talked about. It'll go to the technical assistance provider. They'll sign off on it and say, yep, this is the work I want to do. And then finally, it'll go to our back office for final approvals. Once that happens, you and the technical assistance provider will receive a notification that work can begin. So please don't start any work before you get that notification, because the money is not, it's anyone in our queue, we're setting funding aside, but you're not guaranteed it until you have a completed and signed off scope of work. So once work begins, the Navigators will, may check in periodically, certainly available to help as needed. Once work is completed, then the TA provider will reach out to us and say, hey, we completed the job, and we'll follow up with you as the business applicant and say, how'd it go? Good, you happy? You'll sign off that you're good to go. The technical assistance provider will give us the invoice for the work that was done, and then we will arrange that payment. So, quick note on timeline. If anyone who is familiar with the Restart Vermont program is probably familiar with a pretty tight time span in terms of how work could get done. This program thankfully has a longer timeline available to us. The work, any projects need to get done within 6 months of the completed scope of work being signed off on. And we're certainly hoping to wrap these projects in the next year or so. So that's pretty high level overview. I'll go ahead and ask Melissa if she can, I'm gonna stop sharing. I'm gonna ask Melissa if she can guide us through some questions here.
Great. So a question that came up a couple of times was nonprofits are eligible for this program, and people wanted to know, how do nonprofits report their income and ownership in this form?
Right. Yes, that's a good question. So the person completing the form, if you're a nonprofit, should be like the director probably for the organization. There will be questions that ask for individual contact information, and and that'll be the director or the main point of contact there. And then I would click multiple owners on that form, and then fill out the census information based off of your board composition to the best of your ability.
How do we know if we are rural or not? What is the requirement?
That's a good question. I imagine most of Vermont is considered rural. So you can't go wrong if you choose that option. If you're right in the middle of Chittenden County, you can probably safely urban, but I think most folks will be rural.
I believe that downtown Burlington is the only area that's designated as urban in Vermont. That question came up for me before. Okay. People have questions about just the difference between the income requirements and the business revenue reporting. If we could talk through that just one more time, what exact financials are required?
Yeah, absolutely. So let me see if I can, give me just one moment, because I'm gonna take us on a little field trip of the website for a moment. All right. So we're on vermonteconomicdevelopment.com right now. So I'm going to go to business FAQs. New window. Ooh, yeah, this is the not favorite household income determination. On our intake form, we've actually got a better link. So let me see if I can pull that one up real quick. Don't mind me. Yeah, so this is the much easier to navigate form to talk about that household income section near the beginning. So you'll want to look at that to make that determination. As far as the other revenue information, so we're looking at gross revenue. Give me just a moment here. I'm going to skip ahead to the end here. All right, so gross revenue, total amount of sales for the reporting period. So as explained there, and then your net income. So it's got some information about how to look at that there. Great. I'm gonna go back here just while we're on it. All right. What other questions do we have?
People would like to know the how much the money available to them might be.
Okay. Yep. That's also a great question. So it's a bit variable. So it is roughly related to gross revenue, but there are other considerations involved, and it's really specific to the project being done. So we ask that as you have these conversations with Melissa and myself, and then subsequently with the TA providers, you're going to get a sense for the project that you want done, and then they will be able to give you a quote, and we'll be able to help you figure out if that's manageable within the scope of the project.
I have the question, when is the application going to be available?
Awesome question. March 14th. It is going to be available starting at 9 a.m. on this page. So maybe we can drop that into the chat again. I'll do it right now. All right, so bookmark that for 9 a.m. on the 14th.
I have a few people asking about not understanding why household income is a consideration for this program.
Yeah, so I'll try not to get too into the weeds with it, but some funding comes from a community development block grant, which in order for recipients need to meet certain income levels for that. So some money comes from SBA, some money comes from CDBG. We have more of the CDBG money, so we're trying to, the more people that we can, do projects from that bucket, the better. We want to be able to serve as many people as possible. So, you're not required to fill in that information, but it will help us to ensure that as many people as possible receive funds.
We have a couple of people that attended as vendors and want to know where they can get information about the vendor process.
Great. So there's a vendor FAQ that has some great information. It's got the recording from earlier today, as well as the presentation slides there. They can register there. And if they have any specific questions, they can reach out to Melissa as well.
People would like to know, do sole proprietors qualify for this program?
Yes. Yep. So long as you meet the requirements around gross revenue, when your business started, and can articulate the COVID impacts.
How soon will money be available after the application process?
That is variable. It's a couple of different circumstances. It's to some degree, it's how quickly Melissa and I can help usher through the project. It's also really going to be related to the TA provider's timeline and schedule. So, you know, how quickly can they get the work done? And of course, just kind of staying organized and communicative on your end. Those are sort of the things that go into it, but there's not any particular reason why I wouldn't be able to proceed on these, you know, soon.
Are projects that are already in progress right now eligible for this program?
No, so they need to be a new project.
The website says that the program is first come, first served. What does that mean?
Yep, great question. So it is your applications when the portal opens, they are time stamped. So, you know, get them in early. Once we reach sort of a set aside amount of funds, we're going to close the applications. So it is just sort of first come, first serve in that sense.
Can a business work on more than one type of project?
Yes. There are going to be conversations with the Navigator. You know, you come to the meeting with a bunch of ideas, right? And we'll help you think through what makes the most sense, what's going to make your business most sustainable. And then based off of, you know, the funding available, we're going to help prioritize which, if it's one project or two projects or, you know, that sort of thing.
Here are a few technical questions people had about the application that hopefully you know the answer to, Casey. What is form validation at the bottom left of the form you showed us?
Oh, that's just a thing on the back end of the system. That's not something you'll see when you actually go into it yourself. That form will actually be more simple slightly when you're in it yourself.
And then on the COVID question about how long should those answers be, because 600 characters sounds short to people.
Yeah, a couple of sentences, like a healthy paragraph is great. The idea is that we want to be able to get a sort of a summary of that COVID impact. You're going to be able to talk about that more with your Navigator.
Could we be disqualified if our household income is too high? Is there a limit on household income?
There's not a limit on household income. For folks who are in that higher range, you'll be probably in the SBA bucket. So it just decides which bucket of money it's coming from.
Does everyone who applies meet with a Navigator, or just applications that are approved? And actually, I think there's a little bit of confusion in the question, just projects that are approved. So maybe go through application to project.
Yep. So the quick sort of workflow is that a fresh application comes in, it gets assigned to either Melissa or myself. we do sort of a high level review just to make sure that, you're not debarred by the federal government, like that kind of thing. And that you meet the other eligibility requirements. We'll approve you. It just shows that you're approved to participate in the program. You'll get the invite to meet with us. Then we'll have that conversation. And from that conversation, you'll be able to move toward creating a scope of work.
Are brand new businesses eligible to apply?
They're not. A business has to be established as of March 15th, 2020. So, we are not the right program to support those folks. However, we would strongly recommend looking at those other spoke organizations that are under that CNPP umbrella, depending on your needs and the kind of business that you have. There are going to be some really great resources available.
If you're interested in working with a technical assistance provider who did the REV2 program, do they need to register for this program?
So what we did with the REV2 vendors is that we had our list, we notified them a few months back to ask if they were interested in participating in this program, and had them update their file in our system. So a lot of them did do that. Some of them weren't free, or maybe some emails went to the spam inbox. So we do have a healthy list of vendors from the first round. Vendors can register or re-register with us at any time.
Will this PowerPoint be available after the presentation?
Yes, absolutely. So hopefully within an hour or so after we hop off, but at the very latest tomorrow morning.
I think we're getting a few questions about financials that are probably outside of our purview and might be better. If you have a very specific financial question, that's probably a better question for a CPA. I think some of these are not, I don't believe, questions that we can answer about calculating business revenue. I think that gets through all the questions that I've seen.
I think I might have a few that I've been blatantly neglecting while answering these, so I might just take a quick peek here. If you've been messaging me directly, Melissa probably hasn't seen those questions, so feel free to copy and paste, or again, that cnpp@brattleborodevelopment.com email address is a good one for those questions that we weren't able to get to. So I'm just going to take a peek through some of these real quick.
I do have a repeat question that I don't think I understood the first time. If we expect that we will have a project that's already $5,000, can we additionally apply for other projects on top of that? So they're asking about, can they apply for a $5,000 project and then additional projects beyond $5,000?
No. Let's see. So I see one. Can TA vendors team up with out-of-state businesses? So no, all of the businesses receiving technical assistance have to be Vermont businesses. If, for instance, you're looking, and we prefer that the TA providers also be Vermont businesses, but if there's a provider who is outside of the state, maybe have something really specialized, or you've worked with them for a long time, we can get those vendors registered too.
I'm still getting a lot of high-level financial questions, and I got a helpful tip from the executive director of CVEDC, who says the SBDC, the Small Business Development Center counselors, can help you calculate your business revenue. didn't know, which is great. So if rather than going to a CPA and paying for that, if you need help understanding how to calculate your organization's business revenue, please look for your SBDC person who can help you with that. Is a business that has already received other types of grants eligible?
Yes.
And I think we'd like a repeat on, for nonprofits, what they're supposed to do to calculate the personal income part.
I would use the information from the person completing the application.
It's really a demographic question. That question is not meant to represent financial information about your business. It's meant to report on the person completing the application. That's how the household income is used, right, Casey?
Yep, thank you. So I'm seeing one, how many applications do we anticipate receiving? Unsure at this point, but we do expect there's a pretty good likelihood that we are going to be fully subscribed fairly soon. So plan on getting your applications in earlier rather than later.
And can we repeat one more time how to apply right now as a vendor and how you will apply and when as a business?
Yep. So applying right now as a vendor is, go to vermonteconomicdevelopment.com, go to, the TA vendor FAQs and click this register button. So that's how to register as a vendor right now. For business applicants, you'll go to vermonteconomicdevelopment.com on March 14th. You'll go to business FAQs, and this page is, this page is going to look just like this. It's going to have the informational, the webinar recording that we're doing right now, the slides, and then it's going to have a button here to register. So you'll go to that business page there, and that'll live here.
Will businesses over a certain, this question is worded as net income, but they may mean business revenue, not be considered for the program, even if they have a strong COVID-19 impact?
No, they will not be, or they won't be ineligible even if they have a high revenue.
That was a little hard to hear, so I think just to clarify, even if you have a high revenue from your business, you can apply if you do have a COVID impact.
Yeah.
I don't understand this question, so I'll read it out to you, Casey, but we may have to refer them to someone else. Can you speak to interlocked businesses that work jointly? My business is one that qualifies, but we have, okay, I understand it. They're referring to their business type, and I thought it was a term I didn't understand. So they have multiple businesses that work jointly, and sort of multiple LLCs might be involved in their application. One qualifies, but then a different one has the need. That sounds complicated.
Yeah, that one's probably, some of those more, more complicated business structures are going to be on a case-by-case basis. If you are involved with two businesses and they're, very clearly distinct entities, we will be looking at that. But again, that's sort of a, we would have to look at that on an individual basis.
Oh, here's a good question that I've had outside of this webinar. Is this, if you participate in this program, does it create a tax liability for you as though it's income coming to you?
Ooh, that's a good question. Melissa, do you?
I believe from researching it that because the vendor is paid directly, this does not show up as a payment to you.
All right.
And to people who did have more complex questions about their eligibility, do feel free to email that address that Casey mentioned to describe your exact question. I think that's it. I don't have any more unanswered questions that I saw.
All right, well, we look forward to receiving those applications and working with you on your projects. Again, if you have any burning questions after our webinar, feel free to email us. We look forward to hearing from you. All right.
Thanks so much, everyone. Thank you, Casey. Bye.